Did you know that despite making up 50% of sellers, women hold just 30% of the sales leadership roles? It's not a pipeline problem. That's a promotion problem. Welcome to the Women in Sales Leadership podcast, where we make the new rules of success for high-performing women in sales. And I'm your host, Amy Evans, sales leader turned executive coach. After 25 years in the trenches at Salesforce, EDP, and startups, I now help ambitious sales managers step into second-line leadership roles. If you are ready to lead with authority, earn what you're worth, and make a bigger impact, you are in the right place. Click follow so the next episode will be waiting for you. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Women in Sales Leadership podcast. I am so glad you're here today. And I want to ask you something. And this requires you to be honest with yourself. How many of you feel like you're kind of killing it on the outside? You're hitting your numbers. You're leading your team. Maybe you got more responsibility and you're doing all the things, but on the inside, you feel a little bit disconnected and maybe even, spent, emptiness, going through the motions a little bit. I hear this all the time, like every single week when I am talking with the sales leaders that I work with. And the leaders that I work with, they've built these incredible careers. They have this the title, they have the income. They've worked so hard to get where they are, but they don't let anybody really see it. And you keep showing up like you have it all together. Because that's what leaders do, right? And that's exactly what I used to do. And it was challenging. So my guest today is going to challenge you. Yeah. He's going to challenge you and challenge everything you think about what it takes to show up at a really high level. I'm going to tell you about Joshua Roberts. So Josh is a leadership and performance coach. He's an author. He's a former U.S. Air Force Senior Master Sergeant. He spent 20 years developing leaders through incredibly high pressure environments. And his nickname in the military was, well, this is going to sound a little odd, but the Soul Reaper, right? I know that sounds super intense, but this is what makes Josh so different. He's not here to teach you how to push harder or do things that make you feel less human and less comfortable with yourself. He's here to help you get really great access to your true power. He helps high performers lead from within so success doesn't cost you your peace. And I think that might be one of the most important things that we talk about today. So in this conversation, we're going to talk about the gap between your outer spaces and the inner truth. And we're going to talk about why confidence without humility is so dangerous and how to lead from the front instead of constantly pushing from behind. And most importantly, how to build an identity that just isn't about your performance or your title. So Josh, I want to thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad to have you on Women in Sales Leadership today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm incredibly honored to be here today. Yeah.
So we brought up this, Josh, we talked about, I just told everybody about your nickname, the Soul Reaper. Super intense. But now you're actually known for helping high performers lead without burning out. So walk me through that. How did being this Soul Reaper, whatever the hell that means, teach you about real leadership and what real leadership actually is?
Well, so the Soul Reaper nickname was, that's from when I was a drill sergeant. So I was incredibly intense. I was very good at my job, but with being a drill sergeant, there's a certain amount of fear that comes with that. And, at that time, like with that job, it was an appropriate, probably title, but I found as I moved out of that job and even into a regular role in the Air Force, and now as I work with leaders, it's far better for people to respect and choose to follow you than just obey you. And so that's kind of where my focus has shifted as a leadership coach is ultimately being a man or woman worth following and asking yourself, why would someone choose to follow me based on my confidence, my competence, and my credibility?
Yeah. Confidence, competence, and credibility.
Mhm.
Yeah. Are there other elements that you feel go along, like in that bucket of those three things that just really get to the heart of what you believe it is?
For me, like when I teach leadership, I don't go into the core of leadership until we've established what the heart of a shepherd is and then the heart of a servant. And when we can get through those two things, then I think you're ready to start leading people effectively. But in my opinion, a shepherd guides, they protect, and they provide. And like a servant is going to put the needs and the heart of their people ahead of their own. And so I think when you can get those pieces down, you become a highly effective leader because you become someone that other people want to follow.
Yeah. I find most leaders don't start there though, right?
No, they don't.
Yeah. What do you feel like is one of the big, normal, typical mistakes that you see leaders make when they first jump into leadership?
Just speaking from personal experience, because I failed in every aspect of being a leader. I think the focus in I understand why, but the focus tends to go directly to how. Like, how do I lead? How do I build trust? How do I do this? And I think you need to rearrange the letters and ask the question, who? Who do I need to be as this leader? Who do I want to be as a leader? Who needs me to serve today? Like, I think you have to establish your leadership identity and establish early on what kind of a leader you want to be, because I think there's two different types, right? You have the leader that is the cool leader that everybody loves and wants to be around. But those leaders typically, in my experience, have a really hard time making hard decisions because it can affect whether people like them or not. And then you also have the leaders that are entirely position based. They get their identity and their self-worth from their title. I'm the CEO or I'm the chief master sergeant. And they tend to be controlling and probably micromanaging, because if they empower someone to make a decision and that decision goes poorly, that reflects bad on them. And so I think establishing early on what the values that you stand for as a leader, what your priorities are as a leader, and how you want to show up every day for the people that follow you, I think that is far more important than the tips and techniques for how to build trust and all those things, because people will trust you when you show up authentically and with a heart to serve and to shepherd. But does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, it does. It does. And what I'm thinking about is when I was first a leader and how selfish I was. I didn't mean to be.
No, I was too. Yeah.
I was selfish. It was about me. It was about my number, what I was trying to accomplish. And even though it was like, I would say something and do something else. I don't know how these people worked for me, but like I would say to them that I wanted to be the kind of leader that you just described, but I didn't know how to do it. And so what I fell into were really bad habits, like wanting people to work the way I did or overstep and micromanage situations. So, did you have that experience too?
Oh, so the military is really great at teaching you how to be a boss and how to be in charge, but they're not real great at teaching you how to lead. And by that, I mean, like, when I became an initial supervisor, I became a staff sergeant, and I had my first troops. Man, it was all about me. It was all about me. And Amy, probably one of the worst statements that I can make is I'm very aware that there are people out there that bear the scars of my leadership. And a lot of the lessons that I teach now were formed and learned through my own failures and how I poorly led in situations when people needed me to show up in an entirely different identity. And I showed up as Josh, the Soul Reaper, or I'm the senior master sergeant. And that wasn't what was important in that moment. What was important was what those folks needed and how I could get them to where they needed to go. And instead, I would get very defensive and protective of my position when I felt threatened.
Mm.
And I mean, I had some great successes, but I think I learned far more from the times that I can reflect back on and see, like, if I would have done this one thing differently, the outcome would have been so much better for them and me. And you can't live in regrets, but you can learn from them. You can learn from the mistakes that you made. And that's why I wrote the book that I wrote. And that's why I teach the way that I teach, is because I want people to learn. Like, if that's the way that you show up as a leader, they will obey you out of fear, and they will obey you out of a need to stay secure and safe in their job. But if you were to ask those people, would you follow that person by choice? If they say no, that's kind of a hard reality to have to come to grips with.
Yeah, I get it. I think one of the challenges is that we're offered, if we're lucky, we get offered a leader who's pretty good. If you're really, really super lucky, you'll get to experience a leader who's amazing. Most people don't get that, though. And then you're left without an example to emulate and somebody to learn from. When I was first becoming a leader, I didn't know a lot. I thought I knew a lot. What I knew the most was what I didn't want to do. See if I can say this and have it make sense. I didn't know how to be elevated. I didn't know how to be that leader that didn't do the crummy stuff, right? The selfish stuff. What do you feel like is missing, or what have you noticed in working with the leaders that you work with that they're missing at the beginning? Like, the minute they get promoted and are now responsible for someone outside themselves, what's missing that needs to happen for them?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I think first and foremost, I think there needs to be the understanding that leadership for most people has 3 levels. And if you get the levels wrong, you're going to end up failing at all 3. So it starts with self-leadership. And then if you're fortunate enough to have a family, I would say leading at home, and then you can lead at work. But if you're not leading yourself primarily, and if you're failing at home, eventually that third one at work, that will crumble. And I think a lot of people immediately shift their focus to, like, I've got to do this here. And they forget that self-leadership is the most important part of it. And that is probably where I failed the worst, was I immediately transferred my entire focus on leadership in terms of, like, leading other people. And I wasn't doing the things necessary in my own life to be a consistent role model and to be a consistent presence for the people that needed me to lead at work. And I just think all the focus gets shifted onto maybe the techniques and the tactics to lead other people. And really, for someone to want to follow you as a leader, they have to see an example first.
Yeah.
That's what makes people want to follow you. So I have a little, I guess, acronym I use, and it's just the word I lead. So, but it stands for your identity, and your identity is made up of the self language. So that's the L, the energy, the actions, and then the discipline that you bring every day. And if you can do that, you lead yourself. And then I think you become that person that people want to follow. And when you've earned their trust and their respect, I mean, that opens up so many doors for you to be able to have input into their life beyond just giving orders and expecting obedience. I'm talking, like, why would someone come to you as a leader with a personal problem, or why would they want to open up and share pieces and parts of their history and their hopes and dreams with you? Like, if they're not doing that, I don't know that you're necessarily leading. I think you're a great boss, but I don't know that you're leading.
Okay.
That makes sense.
It does. I want to back it up and slow it down a little bit, because this concept of leading yourself, people talk about a lot. I've heard a lot about it. And I think we can take for granted that everybody understands what it is and what it means and what it looks like. Tell me more about, for like speaking to my listener, tell them, what does it take to really lead yourself in a day-to-day way? Like an example.
I think first it takes a intentionality about figuring out what your priorities and values are. Like if you can't express those, once you have those things, then if you know what's important, if you have your values, if you have your priorities, I think then you can establish your daily habits and disciplines in alignment with those things. And for me, like the reason I used the 4 words that I did, when you establish the identity of who you are as a person and as a leader, it enables you to move through different phases of your life. Like as a father, that's one identity. As a senior master sergeant, that's a different identity. And the way that I showed up as a drill sergeant was not how I needed to show up at home. And being able to regulate and identify those things is really important. I think people get in a lot of trouble when they just full on, foot on the gas all the time in every aspect. And it's like, you have to be able to navigate, for your family or for yourself, what's important to get to becoming that identity that I want to be. And I think when we talk about self-leadership, people assume it's just discipline, and it's not. It's how you speak to yourself. It's the way that when you wake up in the morning, it's how you show up. And I think it's managing your actions in a way that your actions complement what you say that you want to be. Like if your actions and your words are different, you have a big problem. So
I think what you said is so interesting, because I was a leader for so long, and I am still one now. But in those early years, someone might have looked at me on the outside and said that I was doing a great job. And I wasn't completely messing it up. Like I hit numbers, and people told me they liked working on my team, and I had, I led with integrity. If I'm really straight with myself, as I reflect back on that time of my life, the part that I was weakest in was my own self-leadership. Mm-hmm. I could lead other people, which is, I don't know how this happened. But when and the reason I know this is because when I have gone through a big transformation over the past couple of years, I started to look at, every single area of your life. When something major happens to you, suddenly, you're awake and aware to everything that's going on. And one of the awareness moments that I had was acknowledging that the way that I spoke to myself, and you said that, the way that I led myself, like my own discipline for me, my own discipline to manage my energy, my own discipline to manage my health, my own discipline to set boundaries. Those were they were like non-existent in my life. And no wonder, my leadership, could only go so far, because I needed that stuff. And this huge thing that happened in my life and made me pause and look at everything, allowed me a chance to just get in front of the mirror and get straight about the things that I had been doing in my career that outwardly looked like success, but inwardly were crushing me on the inside. Hey, quick break for a second. If you are a sales leader who is ready for your next step up, and I'm talking about leading other sales leaders, becoming a director, a VP, even a CRO, then this is for you. I'm hosting a free workshop. You can grab your spot at amyevanscoaching.com. This is for sales leaders who are in tech and are wanting to land jobs where you can earn anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million a year. And again, you can grab your spot at amyevanscoaching.com. Okay, back to the show.
Yeah. Yeah. I had the same, I have several key moments where I recognized that if you looked at me on the outside, like I was physically fit, I looked the part, I had the haircut, I had all that. And then I was really good at telling people what to do, but beneath the surface, I was making a lot of moral compromises. I was addicted to alcohol. I literally hated myself. And it's really hard to effectively lead other people when you can't lead you. And, I've always said too, like as you get promoted and as you take new positions and new titles, if your leadership acumen isn't increasing with that, you're in trouble. And that's what happened to me, honestly. Like my last rank that I made of senior master sergeant, my transition from a master to a senior master sergeant was rough because I just winged it. And I didn't continue to educate myself. I didn't continue to grow. I didn't continue to develop my own leadership ability. And it didn't match the responsibility and the obligations I had at the next level. And, I think you see in our society right now, there's a lot of people that are leading other people that end up shipwrecking their career, their families, and their lives because of moral compromises or addictions or health issues because they just failed to take care of themselves. And now what? Like, you spent this whole lifetime building credibility. And it takes one decision to lose it. And, that failure to lead oneself, I think, really plays heavily into how effective you're going to be in leading other people.
Wow. Okay. I know I totally took things in a super heavy direction.
I like it.
Well, it's what I found to be just like what's so it's that evolution that we have to constantly be on and growth. Like there's no nailing it. There's no I'm done. I've learned everything I need to know about leadership and therefore I'm complete. That's no single person, human being I know who's committed to excellence and growth and having peace and joy and abundance and all the things that they want to build for themselves in their lives. Like they don't just do one thing and then stop growing ever. And I acknowledge it was something that I struggled with. So in your book, let's talk about your book because you mentioned it a couple of times. You talk about confidence as one of the 7 essential traits. And you pair that confidence with humility. And I really love that. Why those two ideas together? Because I think a lot of people listening, and this is a show for women. I don't only have women listeners, but primarily I think a lot of women here be more confident. And I think sometimes that can have them thinking that they can't admit that they don't know the answer or not ask for help. So why do those two go together? Confidence and humility.
I think they're kind of like the yin and the yang, right? Like too much of one results in arrogance and ego. Too much of the other results in a lack of respect and almost self deprecation that actually ruins your credibility as a leader. So confidence, I think, like if you don't believe that your training, that your abilities, that your gifts, that your talents, like if you don't believe that those things put you in a position that you should be able to lead, nobody else is going to believe that. But at the same time, if you believe that you're the only person that can do that, you're probably going to start merging really, really quickly into arrogance. And I love working for a confident leader. I despise working for an arrogant leader. Like confidence is when like I've put the preparation, I've done the work, I've earned it. but you have to have the humility also to recognize that you alone can't do it and you don't know everything. And so I think having that balance of the confidence to know that you deserve to lead, but the humility to know that you don't know everything, that you need input, that you need feedback, and that you need a team around you to do your job effectively. I think that's when you really hit that sweet spot of leadership.
Okay. What do you feel like some of the signals are for when it's time to get some support or help?
I mean, I can just speak from my own personal experience, but I think a lot of leaders experience overwhelm because they're trying to do everything on their own. And they have a lot of really, like, I work with a lot of, we'll call them power player, ladies here in Rapid City. And one of the hardest things that I found is that it's really hard to empower other people and to delegate, because you almost get this sense of like, if I don't do it, it won't get done right. Or they feel bad for putting work on other people. And it's like, that's literally those people's role. Like, that's their job, is to support you and is to help make this happen. And you're actually doing yourself and your team a disservice by not handing off work. Number one, because there's no way that you're great at all of it. So some of the people on your team have talents and skills that actually supersede yours. Like with me, as organized as I am, I despise all of the little details that go into setting up an event. And like when it comes to event planning, I'm awful. Like it overwhelms me. And there are people on my team that are really amazing at it. So if I do it all, I'm actually doing myself and everyone else a disservice, because those people are more skilled than I am. And there's no shame in allowing people to exercise their gifts and their talents in pursuit of accomplishing a goal that we're all in together. So I think people struggle with it just because it's either A, they feel bad for asking people to do something, or B, they fear it not getting done right.
Yes.
I mean,
yes. Yes, that's the fear. It's the fear. There was something that I went to, like a full, like, day-long leadership seminar. And I mean, it was like a day worth of content. I remember one thing from that event, and it was regarding delegation and how do you know when to delegate. And it was this one question that you ask yourself, right? To give yourself a signal, like, it's time, I need to let this go. I need to let someone else do this. And the question is, am I the only person who can do this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I the only person whose skills and, whatever my special sauce is, am I the only one who can actually do this right now? And unless that answer is an emphatic yes, then that's a sign to delegate. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a client she's very busy. And she has a team and she has a support staff, and she was complaining to me because she was like, I have to answer 180 emails a day, blah, 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 blah. I was like, you have 180, like literally the house is on fire emails. She's like, well, no. I was like, so how many of those emails are critical that you and you alone answer? She's like, I don't really know. I was like, so you have this whole staff around you supporting you. Like, could you possibly create a system where it's like red, yellow, and green? Like, red is these people are going to lose their house today if we don't get this mortgage through. Yellow is like, hey, we have a week. And green is like, we have a month. You know what I mean? And let your team take care of green, and just establish a filter for like, hey, if this is the case, I need to answer this by the end of the day. But what was happening was she was getting called out of like growth seminars she was in. She was getting called out of family, doctor appointments, because her staff was so afraid that she was going to get upset if they didn't let her know about a certain situation. And it was really like, if you can create a system for your team of like, this is what I need to do. And it took a little while, but once we kind of instilled this filter, she was down to like 10 emails a day that she alone could answer, because she was the mortgage lender, right? But like her team was able to do all the, if it's a form, why can your assistant not send a form? Right. But like, you don't have to do all of it. And in fact, like our assistants are just sitting around like, why are we even getting paid? So now they feel a lack of purpose. They feel a lack of importance, and they feel a lack of value in the company because you're not allowing them to do the job that you're paying them to do. And it's actually incredibly selfish if you think about it, but like we don't think of it that way. And it's so funny to see like when people start to get a handle on delegation, the freedom that comes with that. And then your team starts to feel empowered. And now they have a greater investment in what's happening. But if the boss just does everything, people, I mean, without feeling a purpose and without feeling a value, people are going to leave. So instead of you owning all of it, why don't you delegate, authority and maintain responsibility? That way, if your team does mess up, it's still on you as the leader, but you're giving them authority to do things on your behalf. That's the whole point. Yeah. That's the whole point of having a team. Like, if Tom Brady could have won the Super Bowl by himself, there's no need to have a team. But no, there's 10 other players on offense and 11 on defense that have to help get this win. So, you as a leader may have an incredible skill set, but I can guarantee you there's no leader I've ever met that was able to do everything perfectly. And there's people on your team that are able to do things just as well, if not better than you.
Oh, man. You know what? I feel like we could talk for a lot longer than we have today. But this in and of itself, Josh, has been powerful. And I believe that you who are listening have heard something that you needed to hear today. So Josh, if someone listening to today's conversation wanted to find your book, find you, like follow you, tell me, let's share how they get that. And of course, I'll make sure that those links are in the show notes. So when you get out of your car, stop doing your laundry and pause to go find these things, they'll be there for you. So Josh, where can folks find you?
So my website, it's the name of my company. So it's Fusewell Strategies, FUSEWELL, Fusewell Strategies. People can book a call there, and it's always free to book a call. And I mean, I just like to have engaging conversations with interesting people. So, if there's a way that I can help somebody, overcome something in a simple conversation, great. If it's a matter of they're looking for more intense leadership coaching, we can talk about that. I'm also on LinkedIn, Instagram. I think my Instagram, I changed it from my business to my personal name. So it's Joshua_Roberts80, which is the year that I was born. So you can figure that out. But and I'm on Facebook and all of that, but my website is really where I'm trying to drive people to, since I pay for it. But I would love to, if any of your listeners are struggling and there's something they feel that I can offer some value in, I mean, nothing would make me happier than having that conversation.
I love it. Or maybe somebody they know, right? Josh.
Maybe.
Yeah, this has been so helpful and amazing. Thank you so much for being in this conversation today. It was such a pleasure to get to hang with you for a little while. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. It was awesome.
Hey there. Thank you so much for joining today. I know you're a super generous person, and a gift that you could give to someone you know, a friend, a colleague that you think would enjoy today's episode would be to send them a text, share a link to this episode with them. I do produce this show myself, and every time you share it, it helps the podcast grow and it supports the work that I do here. Also, if you happen to be a sales leader who is ready to take your next step up into a leader of leaders role, whether it's via promotion or you're ready to go get that new job at a new company, I'm talking about director roles, VP roles, even CRO roles in B2B tech, where you can earn $500,000 to $1 million or more. The workshop I'm giving is an hour-long workshop. It's totally free. You'll learn the process that I teach my clients on how to effectively position themselves, effectively network, and own their executive presence so they can land the job and get hired and promoted into these big sales leadership roles in B2B tech. If this sounds like you, come grab your spot. It's waiting for you at my website, amyevanscoaching.com, where you can unlock what's next for you.